So there's a really good website that we're going to show you that has several different videos about how to and how not to talk to your family about certain farm transition topics. And it's a Purdue website. And we're going to show you a few of the videos that we chose that we thought were really good. And we're going to discuss them. So this website is called Who Will Get Grandpa's Farm? Communicating about farm transfer. And our objective of this presentation, the next half hour, is to increase your understanding of communication strategies and apply them to farm transfer.
So there's a couple of, so in communication, in relationships, in farm transition, and any business transition and transfer, how do you get your message across? How do you engage your partner, your spouse, the person you're speaking to, whether it's in direct control, indirect control, or no control? And how do you start those difficult conversations? Do you start them just because you're ready to start them? Or do you start them because you want to be flexible in the decision-making process and the environment that you bring that subject up? Or that you stay very neutral in the whole conversation and all you're doing is meeting to discuss the potential to meet and discuss again in the future? So it's very vague and very nebulous, and it's, okay, we need to plan for this. It's like trying to decide which financial lawyer or estate planner or who you're going to hire to do your will, as opposed to just talking about doing your will. Some of the goals would be try to accomplish the task at hand, keeping your identity, but then also protecting the identity of the person you're speaking with or the group you're speaking with to make this decision. And then building the relationship or rebuilding those bonds. Some of these videos, what we'll show you today, and there's got to be at least a dozen different versions on the website for you to look at. What we thought would be best is to view it the first time. They're very short videos. View it without any discussion, any reaction, except maybe your own personal reaction. And then we can go back over the video. Because there are some things, and as we've been doing this, I've noticed some things that maybe even the video producers didn't recognize they are showcasing that would be maybe perceived as aggressive behavior, or something that you've already come to the table with a definite decision already, and you just need the person you're speaking to agree with you. And that's not really protecting their identity or protecting what they wanted to work into the transition or farm transfer discussion or decision. So the introduction is basically, the older gentleman owns the farm. These different scenarios as far as dealing with his son, or the father or the son dealing with the grandson, or the father dealing with the wife in their discussions, or then later on there's even a scenario where the farmer has passed away or divorced or whatever happened, the partnership is dissolved, and the mother is talking to the son about farm transfer and farm business transfer.
Yeah, so there's many different scenarios available on the website for you to watch, but what we're playing right now is just the introduction to all of those scenarios. This
Right.
is the situation on the farm currently.
My son wants me to, they want me to do, so it's not about, I need to retire, I want to slow down. It's what the next generation wants me to do. I agree with him, but the other thing that, if you play that, well, you don't even have to play it again. Did you notice the sad harmonica music in the background? I noticed this the other day, and it was just like, if it's a difficult decision to begin with, a whole difficult conversation to start out with, why couch it in such a way that you start to feel sympathetic for the old, I'm sorry to say old, the seasoned farmer. Because he's being forced to do something that, okay, maybe I have to do, but I don't really want to do, but I'm going to have this conversation. The other thing that I noticed in all of these scenarios is you've got 3 generations talking about what they have to do for the future. None of these scenarios brings in all 3 generations around the table. It's the father talking to the son, or the son talking to the grandson, or the mother talking to the son. But, I mean, in the perfect world, or in a world you can plan to make this conversation successful, if the grandson wants to come back full-time to the farm, and the father thinks that's a good thing, and the grandfather's one running the farm, how about all three sitting down? Right, so the different scenario, the different communication strategies, positives and negatives of both, to get that conversation started. So why don't we look at, oh, wow, you have links in there too, sure. So father and brother. So does his question ever get answered? What do you mean by transition? And the response from the farmer is, oh, you'll get your share, which isn't the answer. And then you notice the body language of the brother. He just gets more and more, agitated? I was going to say, no, and I can't say it because I can't think of the word. But he's just acquiescing. It's the head's down, the head's down. He's sitting on the porch reading a paper. If you notice, if we can play that one more time, just maybe half of it in the beginning, the farmer walks up with papers in his hand. He's already...
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, you're good. Keep it. He's got a plan. I want to talk about this.
What about the farm? Is anything wrong? No, but mom and dad are getting older, and I wanted to get the farm transferred.
Good conversation so far,
Still talking
I think.
about it in a reasonable manner.
Get transferred, what do you mean?
You wouldn't be left out. Your share would be the same.
So right away he jumps
You would be
to...
assets and not farmland.
The other thing the farmer uses the word, I want to get this done so everyone can still talk in a reasonable manner.
Right.
That's already a judgment call. We've had too many unreasonable mannered discussions in the past. Or he's referring to something down the road where, try not to bring those judgment things in, but rather start the conversation. Maybe it's a good neutral location. It's not in anybody's office. It's not on the farm. It could be on the farm. I don't know. But he came prepared to discuss. He didn't answer his brother's question and went right to almost the bottom line, as opposed to the process to get there. Right, so on the website, those different scenarios, the farmer talks with the father, the farmer talks with the brother, the farmer talks with the son, all individually, all with different communication strategies. And the whole idea is to look at all these strategies and then sort of do a self-assessment as to how would you start this conversation with your farm family. And would you do it individually like this, or would you do it basically as more of a team, as a group, as the whole family involved? So even if he's the city brother, shouldn't they all be sitting around the table at the same time? And then it becomes a little more, the farmer's got to give up a little bit of control over that discussion and make it more of a team decision, which is not easy for everyone. Up until that last question, that was pretty good. Even though there was a couple of digs about, he likes the 9-to-5 work and the weekends off, and that's what I like about farming, I can set my own schedule. Really? Right? Can you set your own schedule farming?
Sun up, sun down.
There you go. I thought the nicest part about that discussion was in the beginning. I want to get your thoughts about, and then but still the beginning was, what's wrong with the farm? So maybe they've never talked until except when there was something wrong on the farm. Financially or business-wise or production-wise or whatever it was. But in both of these, the farmer says, so the brother says, is this your idea or did mom and dad ask you? And he says, this is my idea. I want to talk to them, but I want your ideas first. So he's going to get his ideas, but then he's, the negative side of it, or for me anyway, was that he's just going to go back and talk to his parents. Not both brothers, but just him. So then he's the message bearer, he's the intermediary, as opposed to setting up a meeting with all four of them to talk about it, even though the one brother lives off the farm. So it's back on his shoulders. It's my idea. I'm going to talk to them. But in the meantime, what are your ideas? No guarantees that his ideas will actually be carried, but so that's the one little criticism or critique I would have about that effort. Right. The other thing is with the open-ended questions, you're actually allowing in more input, as opposed to just simple yeses and nos. What are some of your ideas? What do you think about this? And do you have records of expenses you can go over? To have that kind of conversation, going back to previous presentations earlier today. His reactions to, I'll give you a little premise and then we'll show it, but watch the father's reaction walking into the room, seeing his son going through the farm records. There's already a body language of, that's my territory. What are you looking in that for? So there's ownership, control, and the different scenarios. The farmer does a better or a worse job dealing with that kind of situation. His best sentence was probably the end, when he said, you've had this burden for years, and I should probably. That would have been a great way to maybe start it. But notice that the environment where this conversation happened is he walks into the office while his son is going over the. It's not really a neutral area, so there's that space of, this was my territory, and now you're in it looking at the numbers, and I should be doing that. So there's some of those unspoken dynamics between the two. And the other thing we don't know is, the relationship of these over the years. Like we figured out with the brother, maybe they only talk when there's a problem on the farm. That's why the brother asks about it. But for any of these kinds of discussions, you're bringing, lack of a better word, baggage along with you, and all the other conversations you've had together in the past about tough decisions. When you look at these videos, think about what they did well, what they could have done better, watch the other person's reaction, the body language, things like that, and then how maybe you can improve your own communication skills when you start dealing with some of these difficult or avoidance type of conversations. So these are pretty much on your handout as well. Is there ever a good time for everyone to talk about a touchy subject? Maybe you make a family meeting time, trying to put yourselves in their shoes, have a discussion, try not to do, why some discussions only happen at 11:30 in the evening when you're trying to go to sleep is beyond me, but that may not be the best time to do it. But sometimes, those windows are all open and you're trying to deal with different things. Pick a good time, a good location, think about the environment, think about all those things, those sociology things to get people to be more involved or engaged in a difficult conversation.
And so avoid bringing up past bad situations. Remember how that farmer just sort of dismissed all that, that I'm sure that was a battle in the past for them about city versus farming. Keep your long-term goals in mind is a really important one to remember. What's your objective here? Is it to be able to pass the farm on to your kids? Then keep that in mind as your main objective. Be calm and rational. Know why you have the opinion that you have, because sometimes your opinions might be based on emotions as opposed to concrete logic reasons. And don't be afraid to discuss what you need or what you want out of the farm or out of the situation.
And if you need somebody outside, a consultant, a lawyer, someone who has no stake in the game, so to speak, and can just sort of facilitate some of those conversations, discussions, and spreadsheets if you need it, don't be afraid of those as well.